to be honest, don't really know what I'm doing.
He was often a player that I would buy on Football Manager.
It's already a terrible reason.
From Jon Snow, Matt puts Dan's wardrobe to shame.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Look at him, the cat that got the cream.
Ian Taylor said it was the worst thing he'd ever seen in his life. Monk, really, I know he's manager. What kind of say is that?
Gary Monk. 5 out of 10.
I haven't finished yet. I cannot believe Gabriel Bonner-Horst.
That's crazy,
That's
isn't
terrible.
it?
Yeah, we may well have lost listeners early doors again with a long-winded intro. Go, shoot. Hello, welcome to the Villa View podcast with myself, Dan Bardell, and back on my right-hand side is Tom Julian. He's made a triumphant return after a week off. I've always said if people play well, they should keep the shirt, and to be honest, I thought Dolan played very, very well in the podcast last week, and I think you're quite lucky to be sat next to me.
What's the reasoning for the change then, Coach?
It's your job really, isn't it?
Right,
so
okay.
It's just consistency. You've been here most of the weeks that we've done the podcast, so really it feels wrong to boot you out.
So you're saying two different things there, aren't you?
Yeah. It's been a hard week. It's been a confusing week for me.
Yeah, it was a confusing week for me last week. Apologies to all the Tom Julian fans that had to deal with Hogan instead.
So sorry to your mum.
Sorry, Mum.
What do you mean deal with Hogan instead? You mean Dolan?
Dolan, what did I say?
You said Hogan.
Oh, it's not been a good start, has it? Yeah, very busy week last week, and had to make the decision that I might not make it, and then you guys ended up recording earlier anyway.
Yeah, I know. Worked out well.
Yeah.
Worked out well. I think it was a decent podcast. Thanks again to Chris for stepping in, and thanks to those that gave him nice comments that didn't comment on his hair.
Yeah. He's got a great barnet.
He has got a sensational barnet. Although your barnet got some praise earlier in the comments, which I found absolutely bizarre, because I'm going to be honest, I think it's a bit boring.
Yeah, there's nothing special about my haircut, is there? It's a bog standard 2.5 at the barber's.
It's route one haircut, I'd say. It's a route one haircut.
Short back and sides.
Yeah, there is nothing special there.
It's going to be a bit of a kind of mix it up on the podcast over the next few weeks, isn't it?
Because I'm away next week.
Dan's away next week, so it'll be me and Dolan making our debut together.
Yeah, you haven't done that yet, have you?
No, we haven't. And then I'm away a little bit in March as well. So
me too. So it could be Dolan on his own.
Dolan has taken his first solo shift as well. So we'll see how we go. But thank you to everybody that has kept with the channel, keeps watching. You guys and Rolo as well, who did the post-Forest game as well. If you haven't seen that, that's up on YouTube as well. So make sure you check that one out.
Yeah, but we will talk about the Forest game in this podcast. It feels like we should probably start with the bad news of the week, with the untimely death of Cyril Regis. Dad died of a heart attack at 59, which is not really an age to die, really, is it? 59. So neither of us obviously saw him play, but you could just tell by Dion Dublin's reaction last night, all the tributes that have come pouring in about him, what a magnificent man he was, what a magnificent footballer he was, and a pioneer as well, someone who put up with so much stick and flack, something that no one should ever have to go through, and come out the other side and become a real hero and role model to so many people. So to learn of that news is pretty tragic and really upsetting.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. The stigma and the abuse that players like Regis got it's almost unimaginable.
Yeah.
And like Dion Dublin's reaction, and you've watched the videos on YouTube of Regis's performances and that kind of thing, and especially around the West Midlands where he played so much of his career. He was so influential to a lot of players, not just young black players, but to everybody. And going to be a great character and a friend of Ian Taylor's as well. He's had his tributes as well, hasn't he?
It's a real like a trailblazer, for want of a better phrase, and like you say, someone who was loved by many, many people. And it's always a good sign when you've played for loads of different clubs, loads of Midlands clubs, and you're loved by every single set of fans. It's been a bit of bad 12 months or so, hasn't it, for losing people connected with Villa. Obviously, Hugo, Daly and Graham Taylor as well. It's been a really rough 12 months. So obviously our thoughts, everyone at the Villa View's thoughts, goes out to his family and friends, and hopefully we'll give him a good send-off at Villa Park on Saturday, a tribute that he very much deserves. Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be something in the offing. Is there already plans?
There's a minute's applause, I think, before the game. I'm sure the fans will do an applause on the 9th minute as well, his old number. I liked did you see Rob Bishop's story about when Dion Dublin first joined, he came there and he said, I want to be like Cyril Regis for Villa. I want to score on my debut like Cyril Regis did. And he did.
Yeah, and that's what he said last night, didn't he, to Gary Lineker? He said, I wanted to if it wasn't for Cyril Regis, I wouldn't be a professional footballer. I wanted to back in like him. I wanted to score goals like him, and that's the measure of the man. And everyone talks not only about his footballing ability, but about his personality as well. So a great loss to football, and as Dan says, condolences to all his family.
Yeah.
Should we move on to more happy news?
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest 0, Aston Villa 1. A great result by all accounts at the City grounds.
Yeah.
What do you make of it? On Sky, we won a game. We won't talk about it too long. If you do want to watch the match preview, go ahead. But what were your thoughts, just generally?
I mean, any win's a good win.
Yeah.
As we always say. But the fact that it came off the back of that Peterborough game, which did put a little bit of a dampener on some people, I didn't particularly think it would affect that game because it was pretty much different players. There wasn't too many involved. I mean, it seems weird to say it was a comfortable 1-0 win, but I think it was relatively comfortable. I mean, Karanka obviously hadn't had much time to get the team playing the way he wanted, and they offered very little threat, really. But I think one of the reasons they offered very little threat was because our defence was just really good. Mm-hmm. And for that's the whole team defending, not just the defence. We defended from the front, and we did a really, really good job. And we got the goal, good goal. Well worked, and we could have. There was a few other moments where we could have scored, but we didn't. But the thing with Villa is this season, when we are up by 1 goal, I never feel that worried anymore, which is opening me up to us to concede next time we're hanging on by 1 goal. But it never feels like we're hanging on anymore.
I watched the post-game show that you did with Rolo, and you talked about the QPR game. To me, that felt a little bit different.
You think?
Yeah, I felt a little bit nervous. QPR, the game was comfortable against Nottingham Forest. I don't think that's in doubt. But I just had this nagging feeling that Nottingham Forest were a better team than QPR, and at any point that might just turn. It didn't, and that's absolutely great. And you talked about our defensive quality, 3 league games now without conceding a goal, which is very nice indeed, and that feels great. Obviously, we're welcoming back John Terry as well from a 10-week absence, which feels a very long time.
It did feel a long time him out, but it was weird that we discovered an alternative for him just as he came back. So it was very harsh on Elphick, but I said that I would have kept Elphick in. But when you watch the game and you see John Terry, it was like, really, how can you not play him?
Yeah, and he hit the bar as well, didn't he? And he's just it feels good to have him back. I must admit, I feel more confident about the whole back four, not because of anything Elphick did, but just I'm a huge fan of Terry's leadership and his kind of authority in running a back four, and I think that he just breathes that confidence into everyone that's around him.
Yeah, and I tweeted in the week that something that I think's been overlooked a little bit is the team spirit and the fact that we've actually got a bunch of players now that whatever happens this season, whether we go up or not, I think we have a bunch of players that care and are playing for the badge on the shirt, and that's great to see. Yeah, because it should be a given, but we've seen over the years that it actually isn't a given, and we'll come on to some of the worst players we've ever seen later, because that was one of the questions. But really, really good. It's
massively important. I think you don't have to play professional football to know that if you're part of a team that's confident, happy, and likes each other, then that's a much better team to be in than one that really doesn't get on. I used to play in a team in Edinburgh, and all the guys hated each other. There was a big English contingent and obviously a kind of, that was a university contingent, and there was a local Edinburgh contingent, and the two groups didn't like each other.
England, what Lampard and all them were talking about.
Exactly. But I think there was class differences and everything was not right. Anyway, the captain left this season, and the manager, through a genius decision, decided to make me captain.
Jeez, suicide.
Centre back. I'm an okay player, but I just couldn't win anybody over, and we had fights in our own locker room and stuff like that. It was just a mess.
Dressing room.
Too
much American.
Changing room's better than dressing room.
Well, locker room's completely wrong.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But anyway, it doesn't take a genius to work out that when the atmosphere is good, the football is better, and you can see that there's a better team spirit. And you can even see it when Scotty Hogan scored after 18 minutes, people are congratulating each other. There's genuine smiles on each other's faces, and everyone's happy for Hogan, of course, but it's spread throughout the whole team, and that's a joy to see.
Yeah, I think we've got a good balance at the moment and a good distribution of characters. as well. Like for example, Glenn Whelan goes off at half time, and then Berkeby Arnson comes on, and he has not played much, but he comes in like he's played there his whole life and been playing all season. There's a good mix of players in the squad at the moment.
I got to say, I was one of the critics of Bjarnason. I didn't think he deserved. I'd be happy to see him leave, and the bits that I had seen of him, I wasn't very impressed. You were more, you were arguing his case a bit more. You said we hadn't seen as much. Yeah, I agree. What I'd seen of him, I wasn't very impressed with. I must say, he came on and did a sterling job. It's not easy to come on in the Championship at half time in centre midfield and be a steady player. And he did more than that.
I thought he did everything right. Yeah, he's our best player, I would have said, in the second half.
Player. And I just wanted to touch on Hogan again there. Another goal, obviously ended up being the winner, which is great. It was such an incisive ball from Snodgrass, wasn't it?
Snodgrass is class.
A really, really good player. And he put in a couple of other balls as well. The one for Terry, which hit the bar, and a couple of others as well. But we're now seeing the best of Hogan and the way that Hogan likes. He's an instinctive player. He got ahead of the defender, ahead of the goalkeeper.
Good run.
And just nodded it home. That's what we've been kind of clamouring.
Here comes this is going to be smug corner now from me and Tom. It really is.
I texted Dan earlier and I was just like, there's a lot of people now who are getting on the Hogan bandwagon a little bit. I felt like when we started this podcast, which feels many, many months ago now.
It was.
What was it, July? And we were praising Hogan. We got a lot of flack. We were like, he's not worth it. He's overpriced. And he was an expensive transfer. There's no doubt about that. But we weren't playing to the way that he wanted to be played. Snodgrass is exactly the type of player that you want with Hogan, because Hogan is intelligent. He knows if you're going to put the ball in the right area, it's going to end up in the back of the net. And he needed a little bit of confidence. He's finally getting that, and we're seeing the benefits. And I look forward to seeing him play against Barnsley, because I think he'll run riot against that defense.
Yeah, you reckon?
Yeah, I almost said defence.
You have definitely been doing too much NFL.
Yeah, you're not wrong. What do you think?
I just think that movement for his goal, it's clever. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about Codger, and whether Codger's obviously a very, very good striker in the Championship, but I'm thinking, would he be capable of movement like that? Does that?
It's different.
Do you think that kind of thing? Yeah, because I'd say Codger's got more natural ability as a footballer, but you can tell this is something that Hogan's worked on and he's prided himself on. His movement, his off the ball movement, and getting away from defenders. I mean, you don't know whether some stuff like that's worked on in the training ground. Like Snodgrass obviously knew exactly where to put it, and Hogan swapped the defender that he was on and got around the back of Mills. And to be fair, the keeper was awful, I thought, for that goal. But yeah, it was a difficult ball to deal with. We've
talked about it with Johnston as well, hasn't? Like, you've got to be commanding when you come out.
Oh, he wasn't at all, was he?
But it was such a teasing ball. I think, you were just about to go on to there. It was a great ball by Snodgrass, not taking anything away. But you're right, the keeper should have done better. To go back to your first point, I think Codger's a completely different player. He's got so much ability, and when we started to see him at the start of this season, when we had Adoma playing well, Codger coming in, and Keenan Davis playing up front, I loved seeing Codger drop a bit deeper, picking up the ball and running with it. That was where he was most effective, and he brought defenders out and gave Keenan Davis that space. Yeah. Hogan's obviously a different player.
He's good at dribbling though, Hogan. I don't think we've seen enough of it, but I think he carries the ball well, and he's quite skilled. He's more skillful and fat and quicker than you think he is, Hogan.
Definitely quicker. He's not in the same league as Codger for me in terms of his skill level and the way he tricks defenders, but he does protect the ball well, and he can get past defenders as well.
I think what I'm trying to say is Hogan maybe wouldn't score the kinds of goals that you'd see Codger score, but I don't think you'd see Codger score that kind of goal that Hogan scored at the weekend.
Your striker. Well, you don't need a striker, but you
do need a striker.
You don't need your striker to always be scoring the kind of gimme goals that Michael Owen used to get, or Gary Lineker used to get, the kind of inside the 6-yard box kind of goals. But it helps.
Yeah.
And if we're not scoring goals because Albert Adoma's scoring them all, it's nice to have Scott Hogan up there and getting on the end of those crosses and just nudging them home.
Well, you don't think of him as someone who's going to score loads of headers, do you? But that's 2 headers now.
Yeah.
In 2 games. That's impressive from him. When he starts scoring with his feet as well, we're going to be really onto something.
If Snodgrass is in the same form that he was at the weekend against Barnsley, I expect Hogan to have a good day.
Have you ever seen someone get fouled as much as Snodgrass did at the weekend?
I really like that, though. I like that when players like Snodgrass and Grealish, who had another good game, there's nothing to do with you can't control them apart from bring them down. And I think players like Snodgrass and Grealish, they know once they start getting fouled that they're playing well, and that just spurs them on a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
you can see when Grealish gets fouled, he's always got a little bit of a wry smile. You can see he's pleased with himself.
Yeah.
And he knows he's too good. He knows he's too good for them, and they have to foul him to deal with him. I think he quite likes getting fouled in a weird way.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of an acknowledgement, isn't it? It's a compliment. Like, I couldn't do anything but bring you down. So
yeah.
So that's the way it is. Unfortunately, Cardiff and Derby both won at the weekend as well. So it keeps Villa fourth. Quick look at the table shows us that we're only 5 points off Derby, who are second, and only 3 points behind Cardiff as well. Bristol City on the same points as us, and Sheffield United 4 points behind. So that makes up the top six. So again, there's a little gap forming between. Leeds are in seventh. They're on the same as Sheffield United. So the top. Well, I guess the top five, and then 4 points down. Lots of players, lots of teams will still be looking at sixth place at the moment and going, we fancy that. But as
the league's a joke.
As we've talked about before, there's a lot of time for change before it all ends.
Yeah, when everyone was saying, was it maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago? Oh, we're not going to catch the teams like Bristol City. It's a disgrace. Well, we're ahead of them now. But unfortunately, that's still not enough to be second, because Derby have now gone on a ridiculous run and have found themselves in second. I don't think we've had some good runs this season, but I don't think we've had our run that will take us into. Well, obviously we haven't, because we haven't been there, but that will take us into the automatics yet. But I think it's coming. I'm
surprised looking at this. Cardiff, 4 losses on the bounce. That's that shows how quickly things change.
They had an unreal start though, which has kept them in and around it, hasn't it?
Yeah. But Neil Warnock will be looking at that and going, we need to buck this trend pretty quickly, because otherwise, now they've been dragged right back into the playoff mix. They'll find themselves out of it fairly quickly as well.
Yeah, they've made a signing in the week, haven't they? Is it Gruznic from Liverpool?
Right.
On loan. I saw a few people complaining, saying, "Oh, why aren't we making those kind of signings?" Does anyone really know that much about him? Like, is it that big a statement, really, signing someone like that from Liverpool? I don't think it is.
It's one of those, isn't it, where somebody picks up a name, and it's like a Liverpool player or a Manchester United player, and people you make your own decisions. If you've seen the player play, we'd love to hear from you and get in touch. He's not somebody that I know anything about, so we'll see how he plays for Cardiff. And
he's at Liverpool, and he came with a pretty good reputation as a hot prospect for the future, but he hasn't played much in English football. He isn't just going to come and walk into the Championship and find it easy. Mm-hmm. Championship's a tough league. It can be a slog. Is he up for that? So to them signing him, he might turn out to be a world beater, but it doesn't really worry me that much, to be honest. And it looks like we're going to sign a kid from Man U. And
do you want to have a first go at his pronunciation of his name?
Axel Twanzebe.
Oh yeah,
I've got it now. I've got it.
Twanzebe.
I've been practicing.
Nice.
I've been practicing it.
Axel. That's a strong name, isn't it?
Yeah, he looks a decent player from what I've seen of him. Obviously, I'm contradicting myself a bit. But
have you seen him?
I've seen him a couple of games for Man U, playing at the back, and he played against Spurs away last season. I remember watching him, and I think Man U lost 1-0, but he had a good game, and Mourinho singled him out for praise. He looked comfortable on the ball. He's quick. He's athletic. I think he'll be cover for centre back. I think if he's going to play, which you'd presume if he's been allowed to come, he will start. He'll play in midfield. I would have thought, give us a bit more. Some will say we don't need any more still, but Jedinak cannot get a run of games going.
Yeah.
Whelan looks knackered still.
Yeah.
Even though I thought, people say Whelan's bad, I thought he was decent in the first half. He made a couple of blocks.
Yeah, I thought he was okay.
Forest, and then, but he's got an injury, so he's going to be out for a while, I think.
It's an interesting signing, that Twanzebe. It feels like we're kind of trying to grow the squad a little bit more, and just, November was terrible for injuries, and
December wasn't much better either, I don't think.
December, sorry, yeah, exactly. And that's when they start to pile up, November. But Steve Bruce is going to want to kind of shield his team away from having that kind of injury crisis, if you like, again, because we're going to need young players. Obviously, we've got Onuma, Grealish, but we're going to need some cover in the kind of defensive side of the ball.
If Elphick goes, which it looks like he might, he's played games recently, so there needs to be a replacement. We don't know how long Samba's out for. It's been proven now that Jedinak can't really play at centre back, and he cannot get a run of games together to save his life. Yeah. Either been injured pretty much all of the season, so it's a decent backup option to have in a centre back, but also he's someone who can come in And if Jedinak's not playing in midfield either, it's someone who offers a bit more physicality in the midfield but can play football as well.
I've got to give you credit there for your memory, being able to pull out the Manchester United game that Twanzebe played.
I don't know why I remember
in.
that. I've got a strange memory.
I mean, you do. It's weird. Aaron Tishabola has been linked with a couple of teams. Apparently, Bruce has knocked back requests to send him out on loan again. What do you make of that? Because obviously he's not getting his chance.
Has he knocked him back? I didn't know that.
According to the Birmingham Mail, yeah. Villa have also knocked back a couple of offers for Aaron Tishabola. I think I literally said that. Who scored twice in his last 2 under-23 games, which actually I didn't know.
Yes.
But there's also talk that he might go abroad as well in the same article. So, I mean, he's an interesting one, isn't he?
Maybe the right club hasn't come in that Villa think they want to send him.
Or the offer, the money.
Maybe we want to send him to somewhere with a view to a permanent. I get the impression, I don't know this, but I get the impression Bruce isn't that keen on him. Really?
How valuable do you see under-23 games compared to going out on loan to play in League One or League Two?
It's better to go off and play in League One and League Two for sure. But the problem we've got with loaning people now is, because of the way the window works now, that you can't just emergency loan during the season. Like Callum O'Hare could probably do with going out on loan somewhere and getting some games, but we won't risk it in case we get injuries and we need him. So the rules are stunting development at the moment, but I'd be surprised if we saw Tishabola play for us again.
Yeah, I mean, you stumped me there because that was exactly the question I was just lining up to ask you. But that's on wavelength
we are.
We mentioned Bjarnason earlier on. Supposedly, Palmer interested in taking him.
I don't think they'll afford him.
What would you say Bjarnason's price would be at this point?
I mean, how much do you know how much we paid for him? Because I can't remember.
Goodness me.
Around 3 million maybe, you'd say?
Something like that, yeah.
The thing is, he's got a good reputation because he's done well for Iceland, and Iceland are an international team really on the up. So the prices are crazy these days. So I'd be looking for 4 or 5 million, definitely.
Yeah, hang on. Aston Villa.
Tom's just having a look. He's got the old Wikipedia up.
Oh, that's not helping me, is it?
Doesn't say.
What about transfer marked?
Yeah, just bear with us, everyone on the podcast. We're just on the internet.
You didn't have to tell everybody.
I think it's quite clear, and I'm pretty sure they could hear the typing of what you're doing. And if anyone's watching the video, it's really clear that you're on a computer.
Somebody right now is shouting at the screen, hey, it was 3.1 million. 2 million.
2 million?
Oh, that's market value.
I'd be looking for 4 or 5 million for
it. Hey, 3 million.
Well, he's shown in the...
something like that.
Okay.
Somewhere between 2 and 3.
Tom's got the information in front of him, but still hasn't managed to tell us how much we paid for him. But I'd say 4 or 5 million.
Right. Somebody
he's shown what he can do now in the last few games. Well, he scored the other week, and he's shown what he can do in that defensive midfield role. And if Jedinak's not back on Saturday and Whelan has picked up an injury, you'd say he's got to play now.
I think 5 million is a lot of money for Bjarnason.
Maybe 4.
But
he's an Icelandic international, Tom.
You keep throwing that at me
because he's got a good on the international stage. He's got a good reputation.
Iceland are a good side. We also found that with Milan Baroš, though, didn't we? We never quite got the best out of him, whereas he always gave his best for the Czech Republic.
Yeah, he's a funny one, a funny player.
People do that though, don't they? Who's it? Healy for Northern Ireland.
Yeah, banged him in for Northern Ireland, didn't they? But they never really did anything else.
For Fulham.
Vassell was a prime one when I spoke to him a few weeks ago. He said himself.
Humble brag. When I spoke to
when I interviewed him,
yeah.
he said himself his best games played for England. He didn't know why, but he seemed to play better for England than he did for Villa.
He's like
he didn't know why himself.
He's the exception that proves the rule for England, isn't he? Most players don't like going to England.
He was always good for England, Vassell.
That was actually a question. We'll find it a little bit later. Who asked that? But I think 5 million was the
4. I think
was too much.
4 million, I'd go with.
What about Leonardo Ulloa? We are currently favourites, certainly with Sky Bet. Other bookmakers are available too, to sign the Leicester forward. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't want to talk about it too much because someone's asked the question in a really good way.
Oh,
Victor. So we'll come on to that later. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
Let's not do that now.
Well, let's go into.
I like the way he's asked the question.
Okay. I haven't got much news today.
Tom, you're the news man. You come in with the notes. You're the news man.
I know. I thought because I wasn't here last week and people obviously have a lot of questions to ask me, I thought that would probably be best. But I did want to touch on. Did you see the Birmingham Mail did a feature on Marlon Harewood and his?
My dad sent it us both this morning, didn't he? On Twitter. I haven't read it.
So Marlon, it's basically about it's a bit of an advert for what he does, but he
doing well, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. So he customises Mercedes usually for footballers, but for anyone, I guess. And he said that he can put beds in the back so that footballers can sleep on their way back from games and stuff, or they can. He said he's had requests for like popcorn makers and all this kind of stuff. But he's actually like kind of
sounds like houses rather than cars.
So he's moving away a little bit from actual Mercedes-Benz He's just getting random requests in. So he's like, oh yeah, I get requests for tickets. I get requests for random household appliances and stuff. He's just a fixer.
Requests to come on podcasts.
Yeah. But he started liking us for a bit, didn't he?
And he's got. I think I became maybe a little bit too obsessive, and he's gone off the idea now. I think it might be my fault.
Too much.
I think maybe I tweeted too much love, and he's maybe took it the wrong way.
Have you given him a little break? Maybe it's time to bring it back.
Someone must have a connection with Marlon who watches this podcast.
Didn't we have a connection before?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to that. I need to go back and have a look. We were reasonably confident of getting him at one point, weren't we? But it hasn't happened as yet. But
if the person who messaged us originally still watches the Villa View, get in touch again.
Get us Marlon.
We'd like to do that, and that'd be good, especially. Even in the break. I was about to say off season. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say at this point.
Well,
it's off season.
You're Americanised.
Yeah, I know.
You have definitely. I've said it 3 times now, but you have been doing too much NFL and not concentrating on the Villa enough.
Somebody get me a soda.
Yeah. Interestingly, actually, I've done a feature for the programme this weekend, and one of the questions in there was, "Who is your Villa cult hero?" So I've actually wrote a paragraph about Marlon.
Oh, nice.
Maybe we'll send him that. Maybe that'll inspire him to come on. Because that'll be in the programme on Saturday.
Are you going to give us a little touch of what you've written?
Well, I can't remember, Tom, because I wrote it ages ago.
Oh, right.
It's only just going in.
All right. Well, go on. Tell us about your memories of Marlon.
Just a super sub.
Yeah.
Super sub. And someone that always wanted to G up the fans. And he actually had a good goal. He had a good goal record because he never really started a game for us, and he scored 5 or 6 goals in his first season with only starting 1 game. He scored some important goals as well. I just liked him.
I always felt he didn't get enough England recognition.
Steady. I mean, I love the man, but let's be steady.
I thought he was a great option for England. I thought he was a completely different
at that time.
Option. Yeah,
there was a lot better.
Was there?
There was better people around.
Like who?
Rooney.
Well, yeah, obviously he's not going to start, but Owen was at the end. Owen was at the end. Crouch.
Heskey always did well for England.
Crouch was one that you couldn't rely on then. You can rely on him more
Crouch's
now.
goal scoring record for England is phenomenal.
It is, but he wasn't in that kind of period when I think it was the start of his Liverpool time. He went through kind of phases, didn't he, Crouch, of being fairly prolific and then not at all. He performed well for England.
He had a good 05-06 Harewood, so then the England squad for the World Cup, and we took Theo Walcott at 17. So to be fair, probably wouldn't have been adverse for him to get a shot at that point, because Theo Walcott had no business going to the World Cup at 17. But I think to say he didn't get enough England recognition,
well,
I'm not sure about that. I loved the man.
How many England caps did he get?
None.
So then he probably deserved more than that, didn't he?
I don't know. I can't. A cult hero usually consists of someone who, like, you maybe expect him to be bad, and then he does good stuff.
I'm not denying
he's a cult hero, isn't he?
I'm not denying he's a cult hero. He totally is, but I think he deserves an England cap. I think he could look back on his career and go, I was a bit unlucky not to get an England cap. How many years in the Premier League did he play?
I don't know. He played a lot of years in the Championship as well for West Ham when they went down, and for various clubs.
There was a glitch on Pro Evolution Soccer where if you put him at right back, took one step into the opposition half and banged it, it would always go in. Yeah.
Jeez. It was good memory. How do you know that?
We used to play with Marlon
all
the time, and for a period in uni, yeah.
Marlon at right back.
Yeah.
Never saw that.
It was an unbelievable.
Never saw that coming.
Let's move back onto news, can we? A little bit of news away from Villa, but an ex-Villa manager, Paul Lambert, has he's joined Stoke, hasn't he?
You knew he'd mentioned Villa at some point in the press conference, and he didn't disappoint, did he?
Oh, man, it's an uninspiring signing, isn't it?
If I was a Stoke fan, I'd be like, come on. I mean, I can see why they gave Hughes the boot, because I think he'd lost it a little bit, Hughes.
Yeah.
He had some very strange, delusional ideas about himself, Mark Hughes. I used to think Hughes was a good manager, and now I don't. It's weird how things change, but he'll get a job somewhere in the next year, because it's just a merry-go-round of the same old managers.
Mark Hughes has got one more job in him. Yes,
well, you would have said that Lambert didn't have another Premier League job in him, and he's got one.
It seems a bit desperate at the moment. Doesn't
Nobody
it?
else?
Yeah.
Do you think it's that?
I feel like it's been like that for a while. Like Sunderland were like that. I'm not entirely sure why Chris Coleman ever took that job, but they were. I mean, they were. Who did they? Wasn't it John O'Shea who was favourite for that job?
There were
for
some
a little
weird
while?
people.
But there just seemed to be a desperation for managers.
Do you reckon that if Chris Coleman hadn't have took the Sunderland job and he'd waited, do you reckon he'd have probably got the Stoke job over Lambert?
Yes.
You think?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think he's with
Good
what
reputation.
he's done. With what he's done for Wales, I don't particularly rate him as a manager, but what he's done for Wales
Makes his stock higher.
it really does, and he's sold very low going with the Sunderland job. One thing I did want to talk about, which I missed.
We're not going to talk about Lambert a bit more.
Oh yeah, go on then.
What
else you got?
Just what he said about he didn't do that bad a job at Villa.
He treaded water, didn't he, for a couple of years? But
we were going down that last season, I think.
Yeah.
He'd lost it. But we were going like 8-9 games without scoring a goal.
But what do you expect him to say? Like,
oh yeah, I don't expect him to say anything else. But we were on our way down then, and he didn't have bad players at his disposal because when Tim Sherwood came in, we actually started playing that season with some good players.
Was he wasn't particularly good for our youth, was he? He brought in a lot of young players from all over.
Lambert was terrible for youth. I'll never forgive him for that. When he first came in, the first season, we ended the season well. We were pretty much looking like we were going to get relegated all season, but we ended the season really well, and Benteke, Vyman and Agbonlahor were all on fire as a front three. And then he never really built on that. I actually thought at that point we were onto something here. And then again, another raft of strange signings the next summer.
Yeah.
And then the summer after that, he never had a plan at first. It was sell all the old players and get young, hungry players in. So we did that and get cheap players in from abroad, people like Bakuna or Akora, and we did that. And then suddenly the next summer, it was like, right, Philip Senderos, Joe Cole, let's get all these, Kieran Richardson, let's get all these guys in. Let's bring Hutton back in from the cold and abandon that youth thing. I think Grealish was probably the only youth player that ever played for Lambert, and there was a reluctance to start him.
Yeah, it was a troubling time because I remember the first season, and it was a struggle, but I felt the pre-season the next year was full of optimism.
Yeah, I was really optimistic.
I was quite excited about, like you say, that he was bringing in some young players, and it was quite an exciting time. And then it just all went out the window, didn't it? And his whole tenure seemed to be just kind of treading water and surviving. And he did that to a point until management decided that it was him or relegation, and essentially it was both in the end.
And hear an interesting story.
Go on.
I did at that point I was writing for the Birmingham Mail quite a lot, and I did a big letter to Tom Fox, and it was in the Birmingham Mail about, you need to sack Lambert, he's taken us down basically. And Tom Fox, fair play to him, he got me into the office, and I went in and had a meeting with him and a chat, and he said to me categorically that Paul Lambert would not get sacked. And then the next week we lost 2-0 to Hull. Steve Bruce ironically was in charge of Hull, and he sacked him.
Wow.
But the week before he told me there was no way that they were going to sack him.
Yeah, I've got an NFL example of that, but I won't tell you.
That's save that for Jeff.
Right, let's move on. Robert Snodgrass, David Moyes wants him back.
Cannot go.
Good news.
Told you. I said that a long time ago.
Said that a few weeks ago, yeah.
He definitely cannot go, and it's been proved correct.
You know, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Well,
he wouldn't even want to go, would he? He loves it at Villa.
Yeah, well, he seems to, and he's finding his form, and the way that the West Ham owners talked about him
why would you go back?
Was terrible. And
I bet Moyes is chuffed with that, because Moyes probably wants him back. Obviously, they're both Scottish. I'm sure he's got some respect for Moyes and vice versa. But you know, when your chairman and the owners are saying stuff like that, you've got no chance, have you?
Yeah.
Why is he going to want to go back and play for that mess?
It's interesting.
Although Moyes has done a good job, actually.
I was going to say that Moyes is doing a really good job. He's kind of trying. I mean, it's early doors, but he's trying to prove the critics wrong. I just don't see why Snodgrass would want to go back. I mean, if they recalled him, he wouldn't have a choice, would he?
Well, they can't, but they can't.
But hypothetically, if he did, the player couldn't turn around and go, "No, I want to stay on loan."
Depends on the terms of the loan agreement, but obviously the terms of the loan agreement is that West Ham cannot call him back.
Hypothetically, though, I've never heard of a player going, "Look, I want to stay on loan." I don't recall me.
Didn't last season Chris Martin was on loan at Fulham, and Derby wanted to wanted him to come back, and he was saying openly, I want to go back, I don't want to play for Fulham anymore, but Fulham had the power because of the contract, and he ended up staying there for the whole season, had to get his head down and get on with it.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, player can't dictate what happens, it all depends on the loan agreement.
But like you say, it's good business by Villa at the start of the season to whatever is in that contract. Obviously we don't know the answer to that question, but whatever it is keeping Snoddy at Villa Park for the time being, and he's going to be a really important player, certainly in February and down the stretch, I think.
I'm sure if West Ham survive, and obviously he has to go back there in the summer, I'm sure David Moyes will try and keep him.
Yeah.
He's the kind of player Moyes would like.
Yeah.
I'd imagine, but yeah, he's a real good signing, Tsonkas. We said it at first, we weren't sure where he was going to fit in, but when you watch him play and seeing what he's doing with his goals and assist record, you think we're very lucky to actually have him. And probably one of the main reasons for that is Steve Bruce.
Yeah. Should we go on to some comments before we get onto the questions?
So these are the comments from the Villa Views recent videos.
Yeah, so this is the podcast from last week. So Tom Harding says he has to disagree. No way on earth would any Villa fan with the squad we have accepted fifth at this point in the season. Top two would have been the minimum. I believe, Dan, in your predictions, you said that we were going to finish third or fourth this year, right?
I said second
at
the start of the season.
Right.
So I'm still on for that. It still could happen. I get what he's saying, but if you're being a pessimist, and after the disastrous season last year, I still think if you were offered to be 5 points off second with the run of fixtures, knowing that we had come in, I think you'd have taken that at this point. I stand by that.
Yeah,
but obviously, everyone has an opinion. My opinion is different. Is it Tom?
Tom Harding, yeah.
Yeah, my opinion's different, so that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
What's your opinion? Sitting on the fence over there.
Go on, you carry on. No, I agree.
What, with me or him?
I agree with I agree with you. I agree with everyone.
Yeah, you are something else.
I agree with you. I think that the Championship, and I said this at the start of the season, Championship is so hard. And you can see it now if you look at the points. It's so difficult to separate. All right, Wolves are on their own, but separate the block, and we're going to see loads of changes from second all the way down to 12th. You know, I remember last year it went down to the wire, and I think there was about 7 or 8 different permutations of who could get into the playoffs with a couple of games left to go. It was madness. And you just can't. It's still too early to say they're out of it. They're not. I mean, Birmingham are out of it, sure, but that's the only. You get my point. It's if you're in the mix in the new year, then that's a good place to be.
I'm not saying it's acceptable to be 4th or 5th. I'm just saying I would have taken it. Obviously, but it's not where you are at this point. It's where you end up. And to say that we can still, there's a good chance we could end up second. I think I'm happy with that.
Are you saying it's unacceptable?
I'm not saying it's unacceptable. I'm just saying, obviously, you'd think with the squad that we'd be probably around second. But as I say, it's not where you are now. It's where you finish, and it's very, very likely that we could finish second.
I don't think it's a case of being acceptable or unacceptable. Really, I just think it's too tight. Would you have taken it at the start of the season? Yes.
Yeah.
In the mix.
There we go. We've got it out of you eventually.
I think I said that from the start. Derek Cannon, he's quoting you here. I've been stressed for 24 years. If ever a line summed up being a Villa fan, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite relatively young to be going grey. I think I've got a lot of greys and whites coming through in the old hair and beard right now. And to be fair, I don't really have that much stress at home with the wife. She's a good girl.
What about the rabbits?
Nah, rabbits don't stress me. They just bring me so much joy and love. But it must be Villa that stresses me out. I don't get particularly stressed by work. Hopefully no one from work watches the podcast.
My timekeeping? That must add a couple.
Yeah, you again today, you weren't here at the time you said.
I was waiting outside because you hadn't sent the emails at the right place.
Well, let's not get on to that. I had sent the email. I did make them. Did you hear about my mistake last week?
No.
We didn't talk about it on air, but I did make a Tom Julian-esque error last week. So Dolan, obviously it all happened late notice because of you. So it basically comes down to it being your fault anyway.
Yep, fair.
But then he came to my house and we drove down to Sky and got here. And I realised I didn't have the memory card for the camera, so we got everything set up and we had no memory card for the camera, so I had to drive back and get it.
I must admit, in about 30 recordings of this, you and I, you've never forgotten the memory card, have you? You haven't forgotten anything, I don't think.
Just with Dolan.
Yeah.
Disappointing.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks.
You've forgotten to turn the switch on before. That's been embarrassing.
I think the switch is this side for people watching on camera, so I think we can say that's probably Tom's responsibility.
Of course it is.
The switch.
If you can think of something that isn't my responsibility at this point, please let me know.
Getting a trendy haircut.
Paul Tyler. Also, I don't know what anti-aging cream Noel Gallagher is using, but he hasn't aged a day since Definitely Maybe. That's a reference to the beautiful Chris Dolan.
The luscious locks of Chris Dolan.
And the skin, apparently.
Oh, yeah, he's aged very well. Dolan, sometimes he texts me and he says, he doesn't say I'm going for a haircut, he says I'm going for a fringe cut. Okay. He just goes to get the fringe cut. To me, I think he could probably just text me saying I'm having a haircut.
I don't know why he has to text you and tell you he's having a haircut.
No, just if we're chatting and we're in the middle of something, he'll just say, I'm just off to get the fringe cut.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll text you next time I'm going for a haircut.
Yeah.
I had one last week.
I had one 2 days ago.
Mark Hendy says, thanks, guys. Another great podcast, and great that you have top men like Chris and Max for fan cams to step in when needed. Would love to know how you all met and how the idea for the Villa View started to come to life.
We need Rolinson and Matt Lynch for this one. No originals in this podcast.
Yeah, the Villa View started before Dan and I. Dan, you came on board after how long?
6 months, maybe 5 months.
Yeah, so Villa View, I don't know, legends. Matt Lynch and Dan Rolinson started the thing. Dan, you came on board. I came on board at the start of this season just to do the podcast and a couple of little bits here and there. You and I know each other from work.
Yeah.
Chris Dolan, how do you know Chris Dolan?
Just started talking to him over social media. If anyone who knows Dolan, he's a very good networker.
Yeah.
And we just started talking on social media and have become friends. Obviously, we both live in London, so
he actually works around the corner from where I work, so literally 2 minutes away.
You could do the podcast at Paul Smith next week.
We thought about it.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah, but I'm not sure. We'll see. Yeah. And who else? Max Roberts played in the Villa Park game. Was that the first time you met him?
He must have been on fan cams. Oh no, it was the first time we met him actually, and then he started coming on fan cams after the Villa Park game.
Yeah.
A nice trip down memory lane, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's brought a bunch of Villa fans together, not just online but in person as well. Yeah. So it's been amazing. Yeah. I've loved the journey so far, and I've only been here a few weeks.
Matt's going the game on Saturday. He hasn't been to a game since Norwich at home at the start of the season. I don't think we usually win when Matt goes, so that's good news. Matt says he's going to come and do fan cams.
Good.
So that's good. It'd be good to speak to him and see him again.
Absolutely. Dana Westberg. Question from an American.
Dana, that's not a name. Is she American?
Yeah, could be a guy.
Huh.
Dana, the guy that owns UFC. Dana White, I think his name. Okay. It could be a guy, could be a girl. Sorry, I can't tell.
Sorry, Dana.
Question from an American Villa fan. What is the Villa View's definition of a big club? Oh, good question.
I didn't say that. I wish I prepared for that.
I get that Villa are a big club historically, given the amount of trophies they've won, but are they still a big club, given they haven't won any titles or cups since 1996? I welcome the Villa View fans.
Thanks,
Villa View viewers. That's really hard to say. I've got a bit of a blocked nose.
It's not hard to say.
Villa View viewers.
Villa View viewers.
Yeah, it's actually not that hard.
No.
I'd appreciate your thoughts on this, but Dan, you go. What makes a big club?
You're more au fait with the American way.
What makes a big club?
Yeah.
That was terrible.
It was.
I'm a bit tired.
You always say that.
I actually have a bit of a problem with the term big club, going back to Newcastle and before that Leeds.
They're not a big club, Newcastle.
They are, though.
No, they're not.
Well, exactly. What is a big club? I don't know.
Never won anything, really.
I don't know. Yeah, but they've got a huge fan base.
I think if you've won the European Cup, it's safe to say you're a big club. So historically, we're a big club. At this current time, we've fallen on bad times, so our reputation is probably lower than it should be. But if we got back up to the Premier League, we'd be a big draw again. I mean, you see some of the players that sides like Watford and Bournemouth and Stoke managed to sign. So we'll always be a big club. We were Premier League ever presence for a number of years as well.
I would say that history is part of it, not necessarily European history, but it's part of it. Stadium, fan base. I think they're probably the
we've got all that,
and great players, past and present.
So we've got four that you've just mentioned, but the fifth is at this current time.
Yeah,
we're not doing well.
Yeah.
So that's the five-step guide to whether you're a big club.
I think there's a difference between being a big club, which I think Villa is a big club, but
it's the right to be in the Premier League, which really annoyed me. And
we haven't got it. We've got no right.
Well, nobody's got a right to be in the Premier League. If you're not good enough, you don't deserve to belong there. And that's what got me with Leeds fans and with Newcastle fans who are a bit noisy.
But what I will say is, the way Leeds are, that's just purely down to bad ownership, and there isn't really anything you can do about that.
No,
once that happens.
No, but you don't have a right to be in the Premier League.
No, you'd have a right to be in there, but you can think. Had things been differently, and you had proper owners, you would probably still be there.
But under the O'Leary years, they spent huge, and then they bottomed out after that. I mean, they were paying Mark Viduka for I think a year or so after he left.
That was a lot of people,
which is madness, and that is bad ownership.
I'm sure we're probably still paying people off from the Lerner era.
Do you think?
Probably. I know we're still paying managers off.
Really?
Well, yeah, because they have a certain amount. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have been that long ago we'd have finished paying Lambert off, probably, because Tom Fox got him signed up to a massive contract for, I think it was 3 or 4 years, and then he got sacked that season.
Yeah.
So we may even still be paying him.
Still paying Micah Richards off. That's certainly
injured, walking injury.
Sam Smith, Grealish physically has come on leaps and bounds since his injury. Technically, he's one of the best in the league, and when he starts scoring, he could become the player we were expecting 2 or 3 years ago. He has the potential to become a Villa legend. Loving the videos. Keep up the good work.
That is what Grealish needs to add. Yeah. Goals.
Yeah, and we talked about it when he came back from injury. It was a really important time, I think, for him, that layoff time to kind of decide on the player he wanted to be, and whether he'd hit the gym and whether he'd develop that kind of side of his game, and also watch other players and kind of grow. And he really has done that, and we're seeing the fruits of that. Obviously, we missed him for so long, but maybe that time in the long run will serve him well.
I mean, I'm saying about the scoring goals, he's been pretty unlucky the last few games because he hit the post against Bristol and he had one whistle just wide against Forest. It looks like the work he's doing with Ollie Stevenson, the former academy guy who now works as a fitness coach at Villa Fitness and Conditioning. Looks like he's doing a really good job on Grealish. Grealish is always posting on Instagram that he's working with him. And like me, I think Jack just realises how important the gym is.
Yeah, well, you've been hitting it hard, haven't you?
I've been trying. Probably not as hard as Grealish, but I've been having a go.
You lost a couple of pounds?
Half a stone in just under 2 weeks.
You look great.
Looking thinner in the face, but I did think that maybe because I've had my hair cut and my beard trimmed.
And your tooth out.
But half a stone, I'm happy with that.
Jack Jennings, 19 games remaining, 57 points to play for, 5 points off top. 5 points off top 2, sorry. Let's keep the concentration up and push towards the finish line. Yeah?
Yeah.
Arguing with that. Mike Holmes, a brilliant result for Villa, and we must try to keep this going. Well done, boys. On a very sad note, the loss of Cyril Regis, a real legend to all Midland football and a genuine terrific person. R.I.P. Big man.
Wish I'd seen him play.
Yeah.
I'd have liked to have seen him play because he sounds like he was a really good player.
Yeah. Can't say any more than that. Good summary. Well done, Mike. Cy Reagan, I would still take Ajoa on loan just to take some pressure off Davis. We kind of drifted off Ajoa, didn't we?
We're coming on to it. It's in the questions.
He would take some pressure off Davis. Thought Bjarnason was very, very good at central defensive midfield.
I like it when it's all positive.
Well,
it's nice.
Next, Michael Walker, a good win, yes. But how did they beat Arsenal, referring to Nottingham Forest? And our passing is still shocking. Can't keep the ball well enough. But yes, we won, but don't paper over the cracks.
People will say we should have scored more.
Yeah.
But we came close a couple of times.
It's like I said earlier, it felt nervy to me, Michael. I agree with. I don't agree with you necessarily. I don't think we're papering over the cracks, but it could have been a 1-1 draw. They didn't put too much pressure on us, and a better side would have done. I think
how involved was Sam Johnston in that game?
Yeah.
He made one save from range, and he dealt very well with a low hard cross that came in the second half. He held it.
Sam Johnston is such a good shot stopper. He's really, really good at that. It's the kind of close conditions and the corners, when we're under pressure from corners, that's where I hope.
So one thing again, I think goes a little bit under the radar with his positioning's very good. You don't ever see him get caught the wrong side of his goal or anything like that. He seems to be in the right place a lot, Johnston.
Yeah.
He's still, for me, player of the season, despite the fact that I wasn't impressed with him last season. He's been player of the season for me this season.
Right, I'm going to go on to some Twitter questions. Do you want to start with Victor's?
Yeah.
Dan, you keep saying, this is at Vic Ramsey 85. Dan, you keep saying we don't need a striker. Hogan is injury prone. Davis is far from prolific. And Russian Hepburn Murphy is injury prone as well. Are you banking our promotion on Hogan staying fit? Would a decent centre forward not be worthwhile? If we don't go up this season, we're screwed.
So I think he has raised some good points there. And let me say, if we do sign a striker, I'm not going to be kicking off thinking it's a disaster. I just think if we suddenly sign a striker, let's say, for example, we sign Ulloa.
Yeah.
He's going to be pretty much guaranteed to start, as most loan players are in the terms of the agreement. He's not going to come here unless he's guaranteed to start.
Yeah.
We've just got Hogan firing again.
Yeah.
Hogan saying he's going to fight tooth and nail if we do sign a striker, saying he's told the boss not to get one, and even if he does, he isn't going to use him because I'm going to keep playing.
Which I loved.
Yeah, Hogan said some really great stuff.
Yeah.
Over the last few weeks, but if it's been agreed that Ulloa has to play, then he has to play. Then are we going to end up going 2 up front, which I don't think has particularly worked for us on that many occasions that I can remember.
I don't. Sorry to interrupt you.
It's all right.
I don't know if you can answer this question, and if you can, in the comments, that's great as well. In a loan agreement, can you stipulate that the player has to play 10 games? Like I know, obviously players go on loan to play, but what happens if, say, somebody just doesn't get picked, or like I just don't see how you can work that into the contract.
I can only go by Football Manager, where you have to pick what squad status they're going to be, and if you say he's going to be a key player, then you'd expect him to play most weeks.
Yeah, but there's no... I mean, this is Football Manager.
I don't know if that's the only thing I can go off, because I'm not involved in that side of things.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do know the answer to that question, that'd be really interesting. But I don't think... You can't... Just because Scott Hogan is playing well at the moment, and I am chuffed for him, but if he does get injured, that's a very real concern. Yeah. But then if we're out of the transfer window, then you're scuppered. So
this is why the transfer window's rubbish.
But you have to have cover. So Ulloa comes in, he has to compete for a job. If he doesn't get it because Hogan keeps scoring goals, then there's nothing you can really say at the end of that loan spell. You go, well...
No, and they can't recall him, I suppose. Yeah, they can't recall him once the window's over.
To me, I liked Ulloa when he arrived at Leicester. I think he's a good player.
He did very well. I remember him at Brighton in the Championship, and he scored a lot of goals for them, and obviously earned his move to Leicester. At that point, I think it will lead to us changing formation, which I don't want us to do, because I think at the moment one of the reasons we're doing so well is we found a good formation. Having that designated anchorman in front of the back four has freed up Horahan and Grealish, and we're seeing the best of Horahan again now because he needs freedom. And let me say, for months he's done well with having the shackles on him a bit, and and it has aided his defensive game. And he's another one with a really good attitude. Whenever you hear Horahan talk like Hogan, what he says is impressive, and about how much he loves being here and how much he's going to fight to keep his place and stay here. But Horahan's better when he's allowed to come forward as well as doing the defensive side of the games, which this formation has enabled him to do. So at the moment, I don't see why you change that.
I totally agree. Having said that, December derailed us because of injuries, and that was a massive part of it. And we can't afford to take that chance again. Just because Hogan's playing well at the moment, we will be short if he was injured. That's it. So if you can get a player that comes in, I'm not saying you change the formation to play them both together, but a little bit more competition is always good. Ulloa, a worthy waiter in the wings, if you like, to come in and take that on. I like it. Ian F was the question earlier. If you were offered $5 million for Bjarnason, would you accept? I would certainly accept $5 million for him. If yes, would you use that money to try and buy Sam Johnston now or get someone else?
We don't know that $5 million is enough for Sam Johnston. We don't really know what the deal is.
Yeah.
With him, it doesn't look like he's going to get recalled, as it's the 18th of January. I think they may have done it by now. Although I did notice Romero wasn't on the bench for Man U on Monday, I don't think. So they've maybe got a goalkeeping injury somewhere. So you'd think if they were going to recall him, it would be now. I'd like to get Johnston on a permanent, because I think he's developing very, very well. And I think he'd be wise to stick with Villa. Because I remember only one goalkeeper can play, and he's got that shirt, and he's going to play. If he goes elsewhere, for example, he was linked with West Brom, not necessarily going to play. And I think Johnson wants to stay as well. I probably would reinvest that money if I could, but I don't really see either things. I don't see either happening. I just think Johnson will be here on loan for the season.
I agree with I agree with that as well. I'd like to see Johnston brought in as a perm, but I don't see it.
While we're on the subject of loans, we may as well go to Luke Hatfield's
that's what I was
two
trying to find.
great questions.
Nice one.
Says, you're only allowed to pick one. Which Villa loanee do the club sign on a permanent deal in the summer? My personal choice, Sam Johnston. Too important a position to leave vacant once again, and a bright future. Snoddy, a very close second there. Yeah, I think I have to agree with that. As much as I'd like to sign Snodgrass, Johnston's obviously a bit younger and has got a real future in the game, and he's only going to get better. And I think I think he's been our player of the season, so it would be silly of me to not pick Johnston.
It's the age thing as well, isn't it? You know, if you sign Johnston, you're going to have him, if he continues to perform for, hopefully, the best part of his career. Snodgrass playing really well now, but is on the other side of 30 now, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, you get that bit more from him. I think Johnston's going to be quite a hot prospect. We'll see. Do you think he's going to come to Villa if we go up?
Yeah. Maybe even if we don't go up, I'd say we've got a decent chance of signing, because he's here and he likes it here and he's settled, I imagine. Luke Hatfield came in with another question as well, down the same route. Which player out on loan comes back into the reckoning? Only one pick again. I hate myself for saying this, but I still have a feeling Ross McCormack, fit and with the right attitude, could bang in the goals. I loved an informed Carlos Hill, though, too. I can't think who else is out on loan other than those two, really.
Do you think I was going to say Galini, if Johnston doesn't sign in the summer, Galini comes back in and gets any chance, or no?
No, he doesn't want to come back.
Right.
Does he? Galini's done. He wants to go back to Italy, which makes you think, well, why did he come in the first place? But I think he wants to stay there. He seems quite happy where he is, even though he's not playing that much. But if I could have a lone player back, I'd have Galini, because he'd be a good backup. Backup goalkeeper.
Carlos Hill, I don't really feel like we saw quite enough from him.
No, I'm not sure where he fits in nowadays either.
There's a lot of young, our own talent kind of coming through as well.
I don't think he'd like the Championship very much.
No.
Either.
Max Wilkins, thank you for your question. You asked a question about Scott Hogan earlier on. I can't find it anymore.
Oh, you thanked him.
There he is. It was about Joa, rather. I think it sends out the wrong message and could halt Hogan's progress recently. I don't think it sends out the wrong message. I think Bruce's would have a word with Hogan, but I think it'd be good competition and good cover.
Should we do Aston's question?
Yeah.
Villa's all-time worst 11 plus manager, because one of us in the podcast took the time to answer your question, Aston, and one of us did not.
Yeah, I've got my list.
No, it was not Tom Julian, it was me.
Yeah, go on then.
I've not obeyed the question, though. I've more gone for players that I just disliked for some reason. So some of them were crap, and some of them I just disliked.
Go on then.
So I've gone for Scott Carson in goal, because at that point I think if we'd have had a decent keeper, we may have got top 4 that season, and he was awful. Absolutely got scarred by his England disasters.
It's a shame. Shame that.
But he's done a good career, hasn't he? He's done well at Derby. Just on a new contract today, actually.
Yeah.
At Derby. I'm happy Bay at right back. Didn't see much of him. When I did see him, he was nothing special, and the fact that we were paying him 50-60 grand a week was absolutely unreal.
Sickening, yeah.
Luna at left back, just because I've never seen a full back with such terrible positional sense defensively.
Tony Moon.
He had a good first game when he scored against Arsenal,
yeah.
and you thought, right, here we go. Spanish left back bombing forward. Christ, his positioning was horrendous. Obviously, Julian Lescott gets into everyone's worst Villa 11, and I partnered him just with the player. He wasn't the worst player. I just didn't rate him and didn't like him. James Collins.
I didn't like James Collins. I think he's a better player than being in your worst 11.
Yeah.
For me, Mika Richards goes in above him. Similarly, he can't stay fit. He's on huge money. James Collins played better than Mika Richards ever did.
He's another one. I like my centre-backs to be a bit more composed and not closed down as much. And Collins was rash. Sometimes he did like he's a midfielder, and he always used to try this ping like he was David Beckham. You know, like Terry pings the ball around sometimes and it makes his destination. James Collins used to try this ping like he had the kind of ability John Terry has on the ball, and it always just used to end up in the Trinity or the Doug Ellis.
Yeah.
That used to wind me up. Gone for obviously another standard pick, although he did have some decent games, but he clearly doesn't want to be a footballer. Charlie Nzogbia.
Yep.
On the right wing, Hassan Kashlor. On the left, I just remember he was another one that really annoyed me for some reason.
I liked him when
he played
at Southampton.
Yeah,
and then he came to Villa and was just like, it seemed a bit lazy.
Yeah. Mark Kinsella and Kieran Richardson, a real dynamic
I was gonna say
central midfield partnership. Kinsella came and he was just a crab. He would only ever pass sideways and just offered nothing defensively or offensively. Yeah, I just thought he was a really poor, slow player. And then I've gone for Gusted and Carlton Cole up front. I never quite warmed to Gusted. And when you see Keenan Davis' hold-up play, someone who's so young and raw, I just think, where was that from Gusted? Yeah. No hold-up play whatsoever. And Carlton Cole scored about 2 goals in 30 games.
You've missed a couple of classics, I think, there.
Have I?
Bosco Balaban. He always gets wheeled out for this,
there's the obvious ones, but
yeah.
I couldn't honestly tell you whether he was any good because I never really saw him play.
And similar with Eric Jemba, isn't it? He gets into a lot of worst 11 midfields.
Jordan Spencer's done a team here. Peter Enkelman in goal, probably. Fair. He's picked Hutton at right back, which I think we've probably had worse right backs. So obviously I hammered Hutton for a few years, but the last year he's been very, very good.
Yeah.
Jolly and Lescott, yep, fair enough. Probably captains the side. Ronnie Johnson, he was a good player at Villa. I thought he played well for us the couple of years he was there. Habib Bey, same as me. Tonev, I could have had him, to be fair, but again, how many times did I actually see him play?
Yeah.
Westwood, I think's harsh. I liked Westwood, and he genuinely cared.
He worked hard
about the club, and he obviously he was in the team that got us to a cup final. So was Westwood that bad? Obviously, he was in the team that got us relegated, though, I suppose. On the other hand,
I agree with you. I liked Westwood as a player. I didn't think he was ever strong enough for the Premier League, to be honest.
I think Westwood would still get in the 18 now if he was here. Jemba, Nzogbia, Carl and Balaban, subs, Guzan, Dela Cruz. No, he's another Colt one. Dela Cruz, Burson. I thought Burson was decent when he played, but he didn't get to play very often. Bowery and McCormack, Alex McLeish manager. By the way, my manager was Eric Black.
Oh, yeah.
What a travesty he was. He had the chance to... We were down. He had the chance to blood through a few youngsters and get rid of the mercenaries out of the team and the chances and the jokers, and he just kept it exactly the same as the thing that got us in this situation in the first place, and made Jolly and Lescott captain. So, well done, Eric Black.
Good
work.
Good time all round. Zach Knight's a nice little shout from Aston Radford as well.
Again, a little bit harsh, I think.
He played well at Fulham, didn't he? But then kind of went downhill from then on in.
Mike AVFC Pearson, how hard is it to sell Michael Richards? We actually know someone called Michael Richards. I presume he means Michael Richards.
Either way.
But he said Michael Richards.
You're not going to be able to sell Michael Richards.
I disgraced myself at Michael Richards' wedding a few months ago, so he'd probably be wanting to get rid of me, if we're being honest.
All right. I think that's a good place to stop it. Somebody's asked, I can't find it now, what you're having for tea.
I've had it.
Oh, what'd you have?
Teriyaki pork and noodles.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, only 467 calories.
Nice.
Did the job.
I haven't eaten.
There's so many questions here that we haven't managed to get through them all. Obviously,
we're already over an hour.
We're an hour in, and we've got to do a match preview.
Yeah.
So just to point out, we were actually going to discuss the finances that came out the other day, but Matt Lynch, who said he was going to come on and talk to us about it because he knows more about it than we do, has not answered his phone. So Lynch. Matt Lynch out.
Very busy guy, Matt Lynch. Yeah. So I'm sure he's doing something important.
Maybe he'll come on next week and talk through that with us, what he's making.
You're not here next week?
Maybe you and Dolan can get him on. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe we'll just do a random show, get him back on for old times, so I can talk about it, because he did want to talk about it, and he did do quite a nice Twitter thread.
Makes sense to film it if he's coming to do fan cams, isn't it, on Saturday?
Time.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me back. I appreciate you not benching me, Coach.
He was iffy.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm going to be in the same situation the week after, aren't I, having missed a week?
2 great haircuts next week collide. So look forward to that.
You are not in the same league as Chris Dolan's haircut. I like to, but thanks to Big D, who commented on my handsomeness earlier and described me as Man City and Tom as Watford. I enjoyed that very much.
A little bit weird, that.
No, fair play.
Well, listen,
fair point.
Still Premier League, still competing for a top half.
10.
Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being with us. Comment on all the stuff. We've got through a relative amount of questions.
We didn't actually talk about the Barnsley game, so make sure you tune into the match preview that Tom and I are about to record. That'll be out after this podcast, so tune in to that for sure, and I'm sure there'll be all kinds of pearls of wisdom from us about Barnsley. Comment with your worst 11s as well, and I'm sure I've missed out some players. In fact, I've definitely missed out some terrible players that have played for Villa over the years. Just give us your comments in general as well, and we'll talk about them next week. There'll be fan cams on Saturday after the match, so tune in for them, where hopefully we'll be talking about Villa having got 3 points. Look out for me in the match programme. If you are, go in and Facebook Live as well. If you're not going, I think that's it, isn't it?
That's it.
Leave us a review on iTunes as well. That always helps. Thanks very much for listening and watching Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking our logo there on the left. Easy peasy.